Hello, I'm Isabel, your red carpet fashion correspondent. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be discussing the major fashion event of the week, the Met Gala. The Met Gala is an event that takes place the first Monday in May every year at the Met as a fundraiser and also marks the beginning of their annual fashion exhibit. The exhibit is the inspiration for the Met Gala and also informs the theme and therefore also the dress code. Having a dress code is what sets the Met Gala aside from any other red carpet event like the Oscars or the Grammys because it gives you a chance to decide if each celebrity met the theme, bungled it, or just completely disregarded it. So it's really the perfect breeding grounds for judging celebrities' fashion. The Met Gala can be a pretty controversial event, especially based on some of the themes in the past and the way that it kind of commands a cultural attention, possibly away from other more important news events. So I think it's important to consider the cultural consequences of that and the fact that it is just an event where we're all gawking at rich people. Because I think more importantly than venerating celebrities and really falling into the idolization of them and really getting caught up in my favorite celebrity wore this thing, blah 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 blah. What I think is important about the event and why it captures my attention is because of the way that fashion is regarded as an art. Highly regarding fashion as an art is central to the entire premise of the event. What I'm interested in is the way that the theme and the accompanying fashion exhibit challenges our understanding of what fashion is and the place it has in our broader understanding of art forms. This year's theme was unique because it's one of the first that's ever been twofold. So the exhibit is called Sleeping Beauties, Reawakening Fashion, whereas the official dress code was the Garden of Time. According to one of the directors of the exhibit, Max Hollein, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Sleeping Beauty's Reawakening Fashion will, quote, heighten our engagement with fashion by evoking how they feel, move, smell, sound, and interact when being worn, ultimately offering a deeper appreciation of the integrity, beauty, and artistic brilliance of these works. The exhibit features multiple historical garments that are too fragile to ever be worn again, which harkens back to the idea of a sleeping beauty, something that's laying dormant and it's just sitting there and the beauty is going to waste. And the exhibit aims to answer the question of how we can reawake and give new life to these pieces through various transformations, through animation, CGI, projections, and sensory experiences. Andrew Bolton, a curator at the Costume Institute, points to the historical sensorial considerations that went into making clothes in the past, including the sounds that the garments would make as we wore them and moved around in them, the sense that the different fabrics would absorb, and how different fabrics and design techniques would physically feel on our skin. Bolton sees the exhibit as integral to, quote, help future generations appreciate how the clothes were worn, what they looked like on the body, and how they move. Another crucial element of the exhibit is the ode to nature, specifically the elements of air, earth, and water. Bolton also said, one of the things that resonated with me, and why I think the nature seemed particularly relevant, was the impermanence of it and the transitory nature of fashion, but also the cyclical nature of it, the rebirth. The separate dress code theme is interesting because it is named after a speculative fiction short story, The Time Garden, by J.G. Ballard, and it's particularly interesting because the story explores darker themes such as the greed of aristocracy and the inevitability of death, and the continual marching on of time. It feels very ironic considering the people at the event and how this story is informing how very wealthy celebrities are dressing. I read the short story myself so that I could summarize it and give an analysis of some of the key themes that might have been important for how the gala attendees decided to make their outfits. And just a little disclaimer that while I do have a degree in English literature and creative writing, I am by no means an expert on the story or its themes or what it means, so if you want a much more in-depth analysis of the entire short story, I would encourage you to go find that elsewhere. I have my own takeaways and reflections, but I'm sure there are so many other people out there who have much more in-depth reflections. So the gist of the story is that a man and a woman live in this luxurious villa, and every day they see on the horizon out in the plains there's an army advancing towards their home. But they have this garden and it contains a patch of time flowers, where if you pick one, it can turn back time. Every night, the husband monitors how close the army is and uses the flowers to continually delay the arrival of the army. When the story starts, there are only a couple of flowers left in the patch, signaling the impending doom and the fact that this can't keep going on forever, and that the couple knows that their time in the villa is ending soon. One of the things that I think is interesting about the story and its impact on the Met Gala theme is the dissonance between knowing that they're eventually going to run out of time flowers and therefore time is the continued bliss of ignorance and pretending that none of this is happening and just going about their normal, luxurious lives. Even as they know that they've reached the end and the army is going to get to them at any moment, they spend their last day cleaning up their house and getting it in order and making it as pristine as possible. Even in the husband's last moments, it's specifically noted that he is adjusting his outfit to look the most pristine it can. But the more interesting juxtaposition is how, even though the couple spent their last hours cleaning everything up, polishing it, making it so nice, as soon as the army of people gets in, they start using all of the belongings as resources, such as turning the harpsichord into firewood. One of the most important elements to this story is the attention to detail of pointing out beautiful things. It's established right from the beginning that the wife is playing the harpsichord almost nonstop, playing Mozart, which fills the air of the villa with that sound. It's noted that the barrenness of the surrounding land and all of the plains is a stark contrast to the villa, which emphasizes the beauty and the luxury of the villa. And one of the very first lines of the story is talking about what the husband is wearing, his velvet jacket, and the glinting gold tie pin that he's wearing. A lot of these details are necessary to build out the theme of the story, but they also are perfect little pieces, little jewels to serve as inspiration for different outfits. The cycle of continually pushing back time echoes the cyclical nature that is explored in Sleeping Beauty's Reawakening fashion, though in this story, the cycle is perpetuated by the destruction of nature rather than in reverence of nature. So to recap, here are some of the most important themes from both of the different elements of the themes. In Sleeping Beauty's Reawakening fashion, we have the mirrored cyclical pattern of cycles of both nature and fashion, giving new life to things lost to history, and engaging all of your senses with fashion. Some of the key things to say about the Garden of Time are the selfish indifference of aristocrats, the relationship between beauty, money, and greed, the way that we use nature to fuel our own agenda, and the inevitability of doom once we've exhausted our resources. Of course, there are so many more things to say about both aspects of the themes, but this is just our jumping off point. One of the things that makes the Met Gala so interesting is how different viewers interpret the theme and react to how abstract it is, and how celebrities interpret the abstraction of the theme. If a celebrity interprets the theme extremely literally, with a lot of floral motifs and very literal garden references, then one person might say, wow, that's too on the nose, it's not clever or interesting. Where another person might go, wow, that fits so beautifully, I love it. Whereas if a celebrity is inspired by a theme of transience, one of the more abstract things, time, greed, something like that. One person might go, I have zero clue where they were going with this. Really bad look. It's not inspired by the theme. Whereas another person might go, wow, this is so inspired. It's so unique. It's a genius interpretation that no one else could have thought of. But it's important to consider that there is no right or wrong interpretation of the theme. Everyone has different opinions, and that's okay. Not agreeing with or understanding inspiration does not reflect poorly on either the viewer or the wearer. People simply have different opinions. We all know this. In my opinion, the only real enemy is when people just don't seem to follow the theme at all. They just don't even really try. It's just completely uninteresting, and you'd have to really be bending to try to connect the dots on their inspiration. And I have that opinion because the theme is so crucial to what the whole event is and why it's such a cultural phenomenon. This is one of the only major events that embraces fashion wholeheartedly as an art form and encourages people to think about it as a wholly sensorial artistic experience. And I don't think clothes usually get that extremely reverent treatment, but in my opinion, they deserve it because fashion is such a beautiful art form, and I think it's one that is so accessible because we all have to wear clothes, obviously, and it also plays such an important role in self-expression. I also have a lot of respect for the theme, not specifically what the theme is, but just for the idea of a theme in general. After taking a look at my own wardrobe and considering what I would have worn and what I would have used as the jumping off point for my inspiration. Obviously, it's different to come up with an outfit from just an average person's wardrobe and not a famous designer that you're custom getting a gown from that costs thousands of dollars. But it was still a fun challenge for me, and it gave me a deeper appreciation for the different ways that people have interpreted the theme. Which elements spoke to them, what became the basis of their outfit, which theme they ultimately decided to mainly draw from. So, with all of that being said, let's take a look at some of the outfits that I thought really nailed the theme, some that I thought were a little more lackluster, and some that I just straight up thought were really beautiful, regardless of if it fit the theme or not. Obviously, we have to start this review off with Zendaya. I feel like she's generally known to be someone who really takes the theme seriously and absolutely nails it every time. And there would especially be a lot of pressure because she was one of the co-chairs or hosts or something for this one. So it was really on her shoulders to really have something good. And I'm proud to say that I think she did an amazing job. I haven't read anything that she has said about her outfit or her inspiration. I haven't read anything for any celebrity's inspiration, so all of this is just my own analysis and thoughts. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but can you ever really be wrong about your opinion? That's a discussion we don't need to get into. So, from my own analysis of Zendaya's outfit, I feel that it's very inspired by Ballard's story. It specifically reminds me of the thorny bushes that are entwined with Belladonna that the army of people crusading the villa avoid, where the husband and wife ultimately become statues inside of it. I think the different colors and textures that she's utilizing reflect kind of our idea of greed and how the thorn bush that they die in reflects their greed and the way that they would rather just keep pushing the inevitable off and then die in bushes than allow time to move forward and nature to take its course. I also appreciate that she's really not on the nose by having it be very green in my own interpretation, where she is focusing on the idea of greed and how that destroys nature and kind of is the enemy of what the Sleeping Beauties exhibit stands for. I think she looks absolutely stunning, and it is a very interesting way to approach the theme. As you can maybe tell by the reasons that I specifically really liked Zendaya's outfit, I am the kind of person who is less appreciative of really on the nose interpretations, and I like when there's a little bit more of an abstraction. I think the middle between really on the nose and so abstract that you can't tell what it was trying to say, like that middle is the perfect place that you want to be. I think JLo's outfit is extremely on the edge of very literal interpretation. In my mind, she was trying to dress as one of the time flowers because they're described as very glimmering, translucent. Just, I feel like this is the literal translation of what the flower would look like as a gown. All that being said, I do think that the way that the gown turned out is extremely interesting, and there are a lot worse ways that it could have been interpreted and turned into a real garment. So overall, I do actually like this look. So many people did looks that were essentially this, but in the interest of time, we're just going to focus on what JLo did, and you can probably assume that my thoughts on that can be applied to all of the other sheer, sparkly, scantily clad outfits. Sarah Jessica Parker's look also has kind of the same feeling of what would the time flower look like, and a kind of translucence and flowery sparkliness. But something that I personally think about her look is that it reminds me of a very historical dress shape, which goes back in my mind to Marie Antoinette. And I feel like the story kind of really reflects the beheading of Marie Antoinette, because she's just inside her lavish, luxurious mansion, and then the mob of people come and kill her because she's rich and she's not doing a very good job and they need resources and things. So, in my own mind, she is kind of going for the balance between a time flower and Marie Antoinette. And I think that is cool. I have no idea if Nicole Kidman actually put this much thought into the look. My honest opinion of it is that she probably didn't try that hard. I think you would have to really reach to make a connection to the theme with her look. But that being said, if I were to really try to reach and make a connection, I would say that the white top half of the gown reflects the purity of the villa and the way that their lives are perfect and so rich and just like this is the way that they want it to be. But then there's the movement creeping up on the bottom, which would obviously be the ruffly, feathery black part of the gown. And that is like kind of sneaking up underneath and taking over the white, which of course really reinforces the cultural symbolism of white is good and black is bad, which has very obvious problematic connotations, racially. So while I don't know if this was her inspiration, if it was, I am not a fan because of the color symbolism. Another thing to note about a lot of the light colored outfits and the sheerness and the sparkliness is that aside from just the time flowers, that also would be a way to visually show the idea of transience that is trying to be captured within the Sleeping Beauties theme. So if you feel like, or if a celebrity says that that was what they were going for, but I'm saying, oh, it's the time flowers, just don't pay attention to that. I am not a professional. That being said, I am obsessed with Lil Nas X's look. It very much falls into that same kind of light colored, translucent, sparkly aspect of things. But it has so many interesting shapes and textures, and it has so much dimension to it. Like, there is a ton of movement in that thing. For me, it does really reflect the reawakening fashion theme, because when I look at it, I can't do anything more than see it, but I can imagine the full sensory experience that this outfit would have. And then, of course, it does just have the little one rose at the top, which I think is a really nice nod to the time flowers. Of course, one of the absolutely most controversial things about the Met Gala year after year is that the women go all out having these beautiful gowns that may or may not reflect the theme, whereas the men are just wearing another plain black suit that's completely uninteresting. And so, whenever a man does wear something really interesting, I think it gets a lot more praise than some of the more intricate women's outfits. But anything good you have to say about Lil Nas X's outfit, he deserves all of that praise because this is phenomenal. I think Gwendolyn Christie, who I believe was one of the correspondents for the event, I'm not exactly sure, but I think she had some like actual role in the event. Her outfit is interesting to me because I interpret it as a very villainous, greedy person. It has a lot of Cruella de Vil, perhaps Maleficent inspiration to me. So when I look at the outfit, I kind of imagine what maybe the wife in the mansion in the short story might have looked like, or just what the aura of her could look like. It just feels so cartoonishly greedy and evil that I think it is a fun play on the irony of that being the theme about villainizing rich people at the rich people event. Lana Del Rey 8. Say what you want about her, but Miss Thing knew what she was doing. I think it's very fun that she had a very literal Sleeping Beauty interpretation, even though that wasn't what Sleeping Beauties means for this theme. It has nothing to do with the princess. She was on the soundtrack for the Sleeping Beauty movie a couple years ago, like a while ago actually. And so I think she has every right to be wearing this. The thing going on over her head is very much the canopy over Aurora's bed, and then like the thorny vines creeping up from the bottom, taking over. You know, honestly, the more I think about it, the more I do feel like there are obviously connections between the Sleeping Beauty story and the theme. The way that something beautiful is just laying there and it's decaying, kind of as Aurora was sleeping, vines crept up over her and made her like she lost her ability to be a person and for her beauty to be utilized through romance, which in and of itself is kind of ridiculous, but I think having thorns and a kind of harsher nature element ties in beautifully to the inevitable demise of the couple in the short story. At first glance, it looks like Iowa Debris' outfit is very much just garden, floral, too on the nose. But as I was looking at it, I realized that at the bottom it's very vibrant, and then as it goes up, it turns into just white and it has kind of a stillness. So I think it's actually a very interesting representation of something going from being extremely beautiful and one with nature to slowly transforming into something that is still and lifeless. So originally I was going to say that it was just completely uninteresting, but I do actually think it really encapsulates the idea of Sleeping Beauty's reawakening fashion. So now I give it a thumbs up. I think Amanda Seyfried also has kind of a more literal interpretation in my mind as being the garden of time flowers. So I can't say it's my favorite look, but I do think it's very interesting, especially the idea to have the dress itself be silver, which would be what I imagine to be more of the color of the flowers themselves, and then for contrast, having the flowers on the dress be pink and black. I think that's a fun way to put her own spin on it and not have it be like an extremely literal translation of the garden in the story, but it still feels a little lackluster for me for some reason. I still love her though. I'll start by saying I am biased against Ariana Grande. I don't know why, I'm just biased against her, and that's just what it is. I think this gown in and of itself is really beautiful, but once again, I think you'd really have to stretch to make it fit the theme. Like, there are obvious ways that you could make the connection because a lot of other people are wearing the color white, and I can analyze all I want about what that means in that outfit. But at the end of the day, This is just a wedding dress with a darker underskirt. It's beautiful, and I love the draping around the waist, but I just don't think it's something super special for this Met Gala theme. Zoe Saldana's outfit kind of scares me. It looks like she's wearing skin with the word Chloe over it. With every Met Gala exhibit, the specific brands are important, but I don't think that they need to be focused on that much in the absolutely literal interpretation of the outfit. This is just a miss for me. I think the boots are abysmal. I have no idea what they're adding to the outfit. This one didn't do it for me. It's just is really missing the mark, in my opinion. Kylie Jenner did even worse than Ariana Grande. Ariana Grande's dress was interesting, to me at least. Kylie Jenner's looks like anything that you could see literally anywhere. It really just is the epitome of go girl, give us nothing. Just, there is nothing there. I do not care about it at all, and I'm not surprised because I feel like the Kardashians and Jenners continuously miss the mark every single time. They epitomize the rich people that mobs want to come after, and I don't think that would be wrong. Usher is like a little baby girl that means everything to me. So I am very biased in making my interpretation of his outfit. That being said, the way that there's like a huge cloak and the hat coming over the eyes, it's kind of like shrouded in darkness with just the one rose popping up. It makes me think of the final moments in the story where there's one flower left and the wife is clutching it as much as she can, even as the inevitability of death and the end of time is washing over her. Like, that is what it is giving to me. It's the coming of the end as she is clutching to her last little bit of hope. But the end always wins, and so does the coming of the darkness. And you know who else also always wins? Usher. He looks so beautiful. And once again, we have another little ode to the rose with a little pin. Taylor Russell is someone that I have no idea who she is, but I think she is slaying so hard. The wood bodice that looks like it's her skin, like the skin tight effect of looking like her torso is made of wood, is so cool. Usually when you think of nature, it's the leaves and the flowers and maybe if you're feeling fancy, white swirls and whatever for clouds and air, but not a lot of people are daring to venture into wood. And this just honestly looks so stunning. I think it's a very fun interpretation of the importance of nature in fashion. Karlie Kloss. I don't think in my mind anything can ever take away looking camp right in the eye. That is just always going to be what she wears to the Met Gala, forever and ever for me. That being said, I think this gown is absolutely gorgeous. Where do I get one? How do I get in touch with Swarovski? How do I get them to make me one? Of course, it's another very literal interpretation of gardens and flowers and all that, but, you know, it's on theme. We can give her that. It's not the most clever or interesting thing anyone has ever done, but it is pretty. Of all of the people who decided to go for a glass, transparent, translucent, fleeting, transitory time flower inspired look, it's hers. It's hers hands down. She nailed this. Like, I feel like I'm looking through the dress at her, yet I'm not. The draping is so beautiful. It has so much movement. It feels so stiff yet so fluid. And the way that the birds are flying off the shoulders is so cool. It looks like glass, it looks like water, it looks like air, it looks like all of those things are flowing off of her and through her, and just, I feel like she got it. I feel like she understood the assignment. Much like Lana Del Rey, She was involved in the most recent Maleficent Sleeping Beauty movies as the Sleeping Beauty. So it kind of, even though they have no relation, it kind of doesn't surprise me that she understood the theme. This outfit is representative of something that is so fragile and beautiful that if you mishandle it, you are going to break the beauty of it, which is something that I think is important for both of the themes, both for the idea of historical garments being so fragile that the only way to give them new life is through having new kinds of sensory stimulation and new ways to view the garment, because wearing it again would destroy it, as well as the way that the glass time flowers are beautiful until they are destroyed. And when they are destroyed, they're being used for greed, and their place as a piece of nature is being taken advantage of to fuel a human's agenda. So I think this outfit beautifully captures both of those things, and it feels like it hits the perfect balance between right on the nose and very abstract. It's just like probably my favorite outfit of the evening in terms of fitting the theme. Nicki Minaj's outfit is another one that on first glance I would just write it off as that's colorful and garden. Like, we know what you're doing here. But if you read the short story closely, you can see how the couple's worldview is informed by their wealth and all of the things that come with that, specifically the really high forms of art. So the approaching mob is described through the lens of a Goya painting, and I think being aware of that worldview that the couple has in the story and the importance of art, understanding all of that, I think could be seen as informing the details of Nicki Minaj's outfit. It looks like there are brush strokes, it looks like the flowers could be 3D globs of paint on a canvas. And I think the yellow color and that having all of the brush looking marks is honestly kind of gauche, and I think that's the point, at least in my interpretation of it. It's kind of the exaggerated vibrance of wealth and how having that much kind of turns the way everything looks up to 1,000, and it's really just in your face, and sometimes that means that it's kind of ugly. That being said, I do not think that her dress in and of itself is ugly. I think that it can represent the ugliness of being gauche as a rich person. And you know what? This outfit is just straight up very sculptural, so I appreciate, aside from the themes, just the overall meaning of the event as fashion is art. I feel like it hits that. What Chloe Sevigny wore is kind of what Sarah Jessica Parker was doing, but way better. This absolutely nails the kind of historical, I don't want to say specific periods, but just kind of like the kind of details that you think of if you were to think of Marie Antoinette. This is in this outfit, and it is so beautiful. Everything I said about that other look and the way that the story kind of reflects what happened to Marie Antoinette, I feel like that is seen in this outfit. And then of course it also has the same color scheme of the light colors and the creams and then the pinks for flowers and stuff like that. It really reflects the idea of like what wealth looked like in the past, less so what it is now, but the fact that she's wearing it now does mean that this is a modern interpretation of what wealth looks like. I feel like I'm kind of bungling what I want to say about it, but I think this one is interesting, and I also personally like the way that it looks. Barry Cogan. I love this outfit because I feel like this is what Axel, the husband in the story, was wearing. He kind of took the easy way out by literally wearing an outfit that was described in the story, but that's a lot more than some other people did. And there I go praising any man for doing the bare minimum above just wearing a black suit. But I think this outfit is really nice, honestly. I think the attention to detail and the attention to the different historical elements is really nice to reflect both what the man in the story would have possibly been wearing and the historical nature of the Sleeping Beauties exhibit. And controversially, I would like to end on a low note because I think being a hater can be fun sometimes. Cara Delevingne's look reminds me of Zendaya's look at the Heavenly Bodies Met Gala. I just don't think that this look has any place at this Met Gala. Obviously, you can see what she was going for with what every other person was going for with sparkly and white and silver, but this just looks too much like chainmail, and I just don't get it for this Met Gala. I just don't think that this is interesting compared to all the other different ways that we've seen these types of materials used and arranged. It just misses the mark. What is the purpose of the hood on the chainmail sparkly silver thingy? You could maybe make some interesting connection to like the chainmail against the mob that was coming to the mansion, but like that is such a stretch, and it also doesn't reflect what happened in the story, so like I'm not even gonna go there. I don't like this look. So those are my thoughts on a couple of the looks from the 2024 Met Gala. Obviously, I did not get nearly close at all in any way to all of the looks, but I covered some of my favorite ones and ones that I felt best fit the theme. I'd love to know which outfits you guys liked the best, which ones you thought were absolutely horrible, and what your take on the themes was. If you disagree with any of my analysis, that is perfectly valid because I really just made all of it up as I was filming this. I could be completely wrong. The celebrities could come out and say, like, I was intending it for it to look like this, and it could be nowhere near what I was saying. But isn't that the fun of fashion? I think the multitude of different theories about the meanings and all of the different interpretations is something that really shows the high art of fashion in the way that it is a very valid form of art. It's the same way that you can go into a museum and look at a piece of modern art and have all these different theories about what the artist meant, what they were trying to convey, what they wanted you to feel, and ultimately, sometimes there is no real answer. Even despite what the artist says about their work, when they put it out into the world, they lose control of what their art means, and the art takes on a new life in the minds of every single viewer. Art is not just one thing that has one single meaning. It has whatever meaning you attribute to it, which is what makes it so fun and interesting and something that's so fascinating to talk about, especially as time changes and cultural circumstances and contexts change. Art gets viewed in completely different ways that the artist probably could never have even dreamed of at the time they were making it. So that's the end of my little thoughts about art and fashion and all of the things that happened at the Met Gala. If you liked this video or you thought my analysis was interesting, I would really appreciate if you liked this video and left me a comment talking about just anything that strikes your fancy. And I would really appreciate if you would subscribe and maybe share this video with a friend. Just, just whatever. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and keep bouncing my little balls of joy. I think it would be fun to have that as my outro, but I feel kind of silly saying it, so we'll see.